So now we're going to review Happy as Lazzaro. So Jim and Annie, let's hear what you think about it.
So I was happy enough to catch it when it was on Filmhouse. Right now it's available on Curzon on demand, so give it a look if you have Curzon. You can also see Laura there, but why not go see it in the cinema? It's a really, really beautiful film, although there's a bit too much ass and titties. Anyway, that might be a selling point. So Happy as Lazzaro is this, I'd say, fantastic film. It's not my favorite one was fantastical. So it's a magical realism film about it starts in a rural town that's actually the people in there working as sharecroppers for Marquisa, who has failed to tell them that sharecropping has been illegal since the 1980s. But since the village is very much secluded from the rest of the world, things like this can happen. I think it's actually based on a real story, a newspaper article as well. It's centered around this character called Lazzaro, who is this pure young man who wants nothing bad to anyone else. And it's kind of his story, but in middle of the film, the villagers find out that what they're actually doing is not okay, and police moves them onto the city in Italy. And this kind of discusses these issues of abuse, and I think it touches on issues of refugees as well and things like that, like who is the class differences and who is doing what, and everybody seems to be exploiting everyone except for this one character, Lazzaro.
So yeah, I haven't seen this film, much to my frustration, because basically I heard first about it at the Cambridge Film Festival towards the end of last year, and it's been bouncing around the festival circuit a little bit. I think I might have mentioned it on the show we did before the Glasgow Film Festival, and I am yet to come across anybody who does not like this film. So I think it's definitely worth checking out. I suppose one thing I'd be interested to know is how the filmmaking style blends with the actual story, because as I understand it's shot on Super 16.
Super 16, yeah, it is, yeah, and you notice that very early on. They don't hide that. There's a bit of grain and like scratches and stuff like that, and a bit of hairs on screen. But because the moment you start watching it, you're thinking you're watching, especially if you don't listen to my me talking about it or watch any trailers. It looks like you're watching a film that tells a story from the early 1900s or something like that. So it does play into the aesthetics, and then when you go onto the cityscape, I think just adds to it as well. It's just like, all right, it is trying to say it introduces a different sort of level of interpretation. I really liked this. It was it's not like sharp and neat as all the new films are nowadays, but it really, really fit the storyline and what it was trying to say.
Yeah, it sounds like it's worth checking out. Like you're not the first person to mention this idea of it balancing, some of these topical elements with that kind of magical realism you spoke about. So it's sadly not in cinemas anymore.
No, but it's available online, and it's not that bad. Watch films online either, although we always want to tell people to go in the cinemas. But much like me, some people just don't have the time to do that, or the ability to have an art house cinema right next to them. So it's still a good way to watch films. But yeah, it's a magical film, and go into it with open mind, because the ending might confuse you. It's not like a very straightforward film, but that's just what makes it a bit better.
Yeah, well, I would say people should definitely check it out. I will be. I will finally get round to it. It's been a hit at a lot of festivals, and it certainly sounds like one of these films that's that well regarded. It may well pop up at cinema again quite soon, but it's on Curzon as we broadcast, so go check out.
And also, Curzon, if you're listening, we are ready to take a sponsorship deal.